The trembling senator's hands shook as he read the names aloud. Marcus Junius Brutus, Gaius Cassius Longinus, Marcus Tullius Cicero. His voice cracked on Cicero's name. Rome's greatest orator. His own mentor. Each name on the proscription list meant death. Not trial. Not exile. Death. It was 43 BC, and 18-year-old Gaius Octavius, soon to become Augustus, stood in the forum watching Roman citizens scramble to read the posted death warrants. His adoptive father Julius Caesar had been murdered 2 years earlier by men who claimed to love the Republic. Those same patriots were now running for their lives as Augustus methodically eliminated every threat to his power. But here's what will shock you. This teenage executioner would become Rome's greatest leader, ushering in 2 centuries of unprecedented peace and prosperity. Not through love, forgiveness, or democratic ideals, but through the calculated application of fear. Right now, someone you care about is failing because you're trying to motivate them with love instead of fear. Maybe it's your teenager who ignores curfew because they know you'll eventually forgive them. Maybe it's the employee who misses deadlines because they're confident in your supportive management style. Maybe it's your own procrastination on that crucial project because you love yourself too much to face difficult truths. We've been sold a devastating lie. That love motivates better than fear. That compassion creates stronger bonds than consequences. That people change when they feel appreciated rather than when they face unavoidable pain. This belief is destroying your effectiveness as a leader, parent, and human being. Let's dive into the Augustus revelation. Augustus understood something that modern psychology has proven but society refuses to accept. Humans are wired to avoid loss more powerfully than they're motivated to pursue gain. It's called loss aversion. It transformed a blood-soaked teenager into history's most successful ruler. When Augustus inherited Caesar's mantle, he faced the same choice every leader confronts: rule through affection or rule through fear. The Roman Republic had tried love for centuries. Love of liberty. Love of tradition. Love of shared governance. The result: endless civil wars. Political chaos. Near collapse of civilization. Augustus looked at this wreckage and made a decision that would reshape the world. He would not beg for love. He would make opposition unthinkable. The proscription lists were just the beginning. When Mark Antony challenged his authority, Augustus didn't negotiate or compromise. He destroyed Antony's fleet at Actium, drove him to suicide, then displayed his rival's head in the forum. The message was clear: cross Augustus, die. But here's the genius part. He made it look like restoration, not revolution. He kept the Senate, maintained republican ceremonies, called himself merely the first citizen. Romans didn't rebel because they feared Augustus personally. They feared the chaos that his absence would create. He had engineered a system where his survival became synonymous with Rome's survival. The result: the Pax Romana, 200 years of peace and prosperity that stands as humanity's greatest achievement in sustained civilization. Let's picture your life right now. Picture your biggest frustration. That person who keeps disappointing you. That goal you keep abandoning. That pattern you can't break. You're failing because you're using the wrong weapon. Every area of your life where you're struggling traces back to one fundamental error. You're trying to motivate through love when you should be leveraging fear. That diet you keep breaking? You love the idea of being healthy, but you don't fear staying unhealthy enough to change. That relationship slowly dying? You love your partner, but neither of you fears losing the other enough to do the hard work. That career plateau? You love your comfort more than you fear your regret. Augustus didn't build an empire by hoping people would choose to follow him. He made following him the only rational choice. He made the alternatives terrifying. Fear cuts through every excuse, every rationalization, every comfortable delusion that keeps people trapped in mediocrity. When someone truly fears consequences, they don't negotiate. They don't procrastinate. They don't make excuses. They act. Love says, I hope you'll change because I care about you. Fear says, you will change because the cost of staying the same is unbearable. Love gives people permission to disappoint you. Fear removes that option entirely. This isn't about cruelty. This isn't about manipulation. This is about recognizing that genuine care sometimes requires creating discomfort. The parent who lets their child face natural consequences loves more effectively than the one who shields them from all pain. The leader who holds people accountable serves their growth better than the one who accepts excuses. Augustus didn't massacre his enemies because he enjoyed violence. He did it because he understood that half measures create ongoing instability. One decisive application of overwhelming force prevented decades of future bloodshed. In the next 4 phases, you'll master the Augustus method, the systematic approach to creating fear-based compliance that built history's greatest empire. Phase 2. You'll discover the 3 psychological triggers that make people change instantly when activated properly. The same triggers Augustus used to transform Roman citizens from rebels into willing subjects. Phase 3. You'll learn the prescription list technique for identifying exactly who needs to fear you and how much, without becoming a tyrant. Phase 4. You'll master the Principate strategy, how to implement fear-based systems that look like cooperation but guarantee compliance. Phase 5. You'll build your personal Pax Romana, a step-by-step process for creating the relationships, career results, and life outcomes you want through strategic fear deployment. You'll understand why Steve Jobs was feared at Apple, why Margaret Thatcher was called the Iron Lady, why winning coaches terrify their players, and how to apply their exact methods ethically. Most importantly, you'll stop being the person who hopes for change and become the person who makes change inevitable. The teenager who posted those death lists became history's greatest emperor not despite his willingness to be feared, but because of it. Your transformation starts with the same choice Augustus made. Will you continue seeking love, or will you start commanding respect? You've chosen respect over love. Now you need the weapons. The trembling senator who read those death lists wasn't just witnessing executions, he was experiencing a masterclass in human psychology. Augustus had discovered 3 triggers that bypass rational thought and hardwire compliance directly into the human brain. These aren't theories you'll debate in philosophy class. These are the psychological weapons that built the greatest empire in history. Master them, and people will change their behavior instantly, not because they want to please you, but because opposing you becomes psychologically impossible. Make what they could lose more vivid than what they could gain. You've been motivating people backwards your entire life. When your teenager breaks curfew, you promise privileges for compliance. When your employee misses deadlines, you offer bonuses for improvement. When you want to change your own habits, you focus on the benefits of success. Augustus knew better. At Navium, he didn't promise his soldiers glory or gold. Instead, he painted pictures of horror in their minds. Picture Augustus walking through the camps at midnight, torchlight flickering across soldiers' faces as he whispered, "Antony will burn your villages. Your children will watch Egyptian soldiers drag you away in chains. Your wives will be sold in Alexandria's slave markets." He made them smell the smoke of burning Roman farms, feel the shackles on their wrists, hear their children screaming. By the time they reached battle, Augustus's soldiers weren't fighting for conquest. They were fighting to keep everything they couldn't bear to lose. So this is your new weapon. Stop promising, start threatening. Sarah Martinez sat in her car outside the office, hands shaking. Her software team had missed another deadline. The client was furious. Her boss had called an emergency meeting for tomorrow morning. She tried everything. Bonuses, recognition, team building. Nothing worked. That night, she discovered Augustus. The next morning, Sarah didn't walk into the conference room with charts about productivity improvements. She walked in with pictures of empty desks. "This delay costs us $50,000, she said, her voice steady but cold. "That's David's entire salary." She looked directly at David. "The client is questioning whether we deserve their business. Another missed deadline kills the contract. That's 40% of our revenue. Gone." She pulled out printed emails. "These are inquiries from our competitors. The client is already shopping around. They're not just questioning this project, they're questioning us." The room went silent. David's face went pale. Maria stopped checking her phone. Everyone was suddenly calculating what 40% of the company's revenue meant for their jobs. Sarah wasn't threatening anyone directly. She was making the threat of loss so vivid, so immediate, so personal that meeting deadlines became the only psychologically survivable option. Delivery rate, 60% to 95% in 1 month. Your implementation. Stop leading with benefits. Start with consequences. Make losses specific and personal. Your reputation, your security, your future. Use vivid language that forces visualization of failure. Remember, fear of losing what they have beats desire for what they could get. Always make examples that everyone can see. The most powerful moment in Augustus's rise wasn't a battle. It was a head nailed to a wall. When Cicero wrote speeches calling Augustus a boy playing at leadership, most rulers would have issued private warnings. Augustus orchestrated theater. Picture the Roman Forum at dawn. Citizens hurrying to morning business suddenly stop, frozen in horror. There, nailed to the speaker's platform where Cicero had delivered Rome's greatest speeches, are his severed head and hands. The crowd gathers. Whispers spread like wildfire. That's Cicero's head. His writing hands. The greatest orator in Rome. Augustus had turned Cicero's execution into street-level psychological warfare. Every Roman walking through the Forum saw the same message burned into their memory. Your greatest talents cannot save you from me. One death. Thousands of witnesses. Permanent compliance. This is your new weapon. Make one example. Prevent 100 problems. Dr. Michael Chen's hands trembled as he walked toward the auditorium. Lincoln High School was chaos. Drugs. Violence. Complete disrespect for authority. 3 principals before him had failed. His first week, senior Marcus Torres was caught selling cocaine in the bathroom. Previous principals would have handled it quietly. Suspension, counseling, second chances. Chin made it theater. 1,200 students packed into the auditorium. Chin walked to the podium. Marcus sat in the front row, confusion turning to terror as he realized what was happening. Marcus Torres, Chen's voice echoed through the speakers, is no longer a Lincoln High student. The auditorium went dead silent. He will not graduate with his class. He will not attend prom. He will not walk across this stage. He will not wear our colors or carry our name into the world. Chen paused, letting every student visualize themselves in Marcus's seat. This is what happens when you bring drugs to our school. Marcus tried to shrink into his chair. 1,200 pairs of eyes burned into him. Every student was thinking the same thing. That could be me. Within 3 months, 80% drop in drug incidents. Students began reporting on each other. The fear of public humiliation became more powerful than peer pressure. Your implementation. Make consequences visible to everyone, not just the person being punished. Use strategic examples. One public consequence prevents dozens of future problems. Ensure your example teaches the specific lesson you want learned. Remember, one person's punishment becomes everyone's education. Make your authority feel like natural law. Augustus's greatest achievement wasn't conquering enemies, it was making his power feel inevitable. He didn't rule through constant threats. He created systems where opposing him became as unthinkable as opposing gravity. He kept the Senate but controlled who spoke. He maintained elections but determined who ran. He preserved traditions but ensured they all flowed back to his authority. Romans didn't feel oppressed, they felt like they were participating in the natural order. Augustus built his control into the architecture of daily life, until removing him would require dismantling civilization itself. This is why systems beat force. Your brain seeks predictable patterns and resists disruption. When your authority becomes part of expected reality, challenging it creates psychological stress. People maintain harmful patterns rather than face the discomfort of change. This is another new weapon: build authority into systems. Professor Janet Kim inherited a university department where faculty ignored deadlines, skipped meetings, and challenged decisions. Previous heads tried democratic leadership and consensus building. Chaos continued. Kim restructured everything. Course scheduling required timely reports. Research support demanded meeting attendance. Sabbatical applications needed administrative cooperation. She didn't threaten anyone. She made cooperation the prerequisite for everything faculty wanted. Within one semester, Kim wasn't fighting for compliance. Her systems generated it automatically. Faculty policed each other because non-compliance disrupted everyone's access to resources. This should be your implementation. Build authority into existing systems rather than imposing from outside. Make cooperation the path of least resistance. Create dependencies that make opposing you costly for everyone. Remember, don't be feared, be necessary. These triggers multiply when combined. Augustus used loss amplification to make Romans fear chaos, social proof to show what happened to troublemakers, and inevitability engineering to make his rule feel natural. The result wasn't tyranny, it was the Pax Romana. 2 centuries of peace and prosperity. You now have the same psychological weapons Augustus used to transform a dying republic into history's greatest empire. The question isn't whether they work. Augustus proved that 2,000 years ago. The question is, will you use them?